Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and to this short time-lapse version of a donkey in soft pastel. This fuzzy face will be coming in a full-length tutorial very soon on my Patreon channel if you'd like to learn along with me. But if you do enjoy this short version here, please do subscribe to my channel and have a look through my other playlists. I'm working on the brown colour of pastel matte paper for this one. I'm using mostly unison soft pastels and a small selection of pastel pencils for tiny details. But the aim of this one was to try and capture the soft, fuzzy, fluffy effect of the donkey. I'm not sure I've seen a donkey with more fluff before, and these might be the hairiest ears that I've ever had to paint. And what I love about the soft pastel sticks is that you're not confined to making very, very fine marks, which is great to have the ability. It's great to have the ability to make fine marks and tiny details, of course. But I love the sticks for making broader marks. Works really well on a very fuzzy or fluffy animal like this, because what I'm looking for a lot of the time initially are the bigger clumps of fur rather than the individual hairs. Individual hairs might come later when I'm adding the finer details. But quite often I'm looking for a mark that is as broad as the broad pastel stick mark I can get from my unisons. So I'm not coming in with tiny details until a bit later. But as usual, if there are ears sticking out at the top of an animal portrait, I will start with those first. I like to start with the ears because they've got edges that usually touch the background all the way around, and I like to spend a bit of time on those fluffy edges at the top. It really sets the animal apart from the background. And as usual, I work the background first. I decided to simplify the background that's in the photo reference because it's quite distracting. I went for something very, very simple, and I will share some out of focus or bokeh photo references with my patrons this month as well. I often do that when I'm working on bokeh backgrounds in a portrait. I'll go out and take some really blurred or out of focus photographs with backgrounds in mind. And I've released several packs of these out of focus background ideas to my patrons, as I have photos like this, folders of photos with just out of focus background ideas. And I'll often delve into those photos when I'm trying to change a background, trying to enhance a background. So I spent quite a long time on those ears. You can see that there's a lot going on, really dark shadows inside. And then just a lot of hair sprouting off in different directions. And that's really the theme for this face. How many different directions can the fur go in within 1 square inch? And the answer is quite a few. So there are many animals that have tufty fur and complicated patterns going on in their fur. But this little donkey was definitely a challenge because of the depth of the fur. So I'm coming in with the darker colours first. Quite often my early layers look really, really dark. And that's because I'm getting that nice contrast in there first. And the beauty of the soft pastel sticks is that you, within reason, can actually come in over the dark colours, as you can see here, with all of the lighter colours. So for me, it just makes sense working this way around, because the colour that I can usually see in at the roots of the hairs, well, that's usually darker. And so when it comes along to adding some colour on the tips of the hairs, that tends to be my highlight colours. So logically, it just works for me when painting fur. So I plan out the structure of the face and the flow of the fur using my darker values. So the black, the dark browns, there's even some dark purple coming in, but lots of darker values. And those kind of map out the way for my midtones and then my highlights. Part of what attracted me to this photo reference, as always, is the lighting. I really like a good bit of side lighting. So where you get one eye, for example, that's in the sunlight. And then on the other side of the face, we get lovely shadow colors. So I've used a lot of dusky blue on the shadow side of the face. And then coming right up to pure white on the side that's in sunlight. And it really creates the effect of the lighting if you use color like this. So that's something that I talk about in all of my tutorials. I'm always talking about how to capture the lighting effect, because it's always the main thing that affects my color choices. So coming down the two sides of the muzzle there, you can see my color choices and how they affect the lighting. So I decided to not add the rough patches on the top of the muzzle, just to make life a little bit easier. But I still tried to leave a little bit of texture showing on the top of the muzzle. And I kind of move around this type of a painting. If I get a bit fed up working on one spot, I'll go and tick something else off the checklist. So I've still got right down the front of the face here where it's at its, almost at its fuzziest here. And I'm just layering up all those different colors, lots of different colors dotted throughout the fur. And then you can see when we zoom back a little bit, a lot of those colors start to mix and the animal turns into an overall brown colored animal. But you can see all the different colors that you can add in there to get that effect. And it gives it so much interest when you're up close to the painting. Now I could have spent almost forever going back over and over the face, adding smaller and smaller details, building up the texture. So many changes in the direction of the fur, dark shadows and creases in the fur. But I really use those dark creases and where they are placed to help me get the structure of the animal, because that's what I'm focused on most of all, not working my way down to tiny little details and hairs, but making sure first of all, before I add any details, that I've got the structure of the face, so the bigger shapes. And that's something that I really use to help me on the neck, as you can see here. I'm just splitting it up into the different sections of fur that I can see on the animal, which are in fact the different sections of muscular structure too. And by splitting the body up into different sections of fur that I can see, so it might flow all one direction in one of these sections, and then along the seam it really changes direction into the next section. So breaking it up like this not only helps me get the structure of the animal better without getting carried away with smaller details, it's also for my own sanity, because it breaks this complicated neck and body area up. It gives me bite sizes to chip away at, and I don't get overwhelmed when I look at the whole thing as one. I can focus on each of these little sections and then looking at the edges of each shape, how those hairs change direction and kind of melt into the next section. And that really helps me to break it down, to make it more manageable. So just like on the face, working from the darkest colours, getting all of the definition really exists before I come in with my lighter colours. You can kind of see the texture and the flow of the fur already. And that allows me to be reasonably sparing with my highlights so that I don't lose the vibrance, the overall vibrance in the mix of the colours. So this is definitely one of the hairiest faces that I've ever had the pleasure to paint. Don't forget to check me out over on Patreon if you would like to access the real-time tutorial series coming from this. And also do check out my full library of tutorials that are available via Patreon. I've got lots of real-time stuff here on YouTube as well. But the main library of my tutorials is all available via Patreon. You don't have to sign up to be able to browse all of the tutorials I have. You can visit my website, emmacolbertart.com, and have a look through the whole library. But thank you very much for watching this here. Please do subscribe here on YouTube. And until next time, happy pasteling.